10 games.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL strategy show presented by PrizePicks. I'm Dave Loughran, @Loughy_D on Twitter. LOUGHY_D is how you spell it. Joined by Ben Rasa @JazzRaz DFS himself. What's good, brother?
What's up, man? Yeah, another week in the books. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, I feel like NFL hits like a mini lull and then it revs back up now starting till Thanksgiving, which to me is the best slate of the year. We got a lot of teams on buys. Some teams are starting to get out of it. A little weird kind of mid-stretch of the season.
6 teams. This is the biggest bye week so far, maybe of the year, probably of the year, now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's only 10 games on the main slate.
I know. Yeah, 13 games in total, so makes things easy. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Very happy to have you with us, as always. This is our favorite show of the week. We get to preview, a little look ahead for the week 9 slate. Who knows where the show will take us? Could only guess. I honestly, we don't plan anything that we talk about. So, I mean, we plan the football part. Yeah, the football part.
It's a social experiment because we like to see you get a nice spread of. You ever go back and look at the comments on this specific show each week?
I actually enjoy looking at them for that exact reason.
Yeah, it's like 50% just like, wow, you guys are hilarious, keep it up, and then 50% like, these idiots don't respect my time. Like, don't ever have fun on a show. I only want your football takes. Thanks for nothing. It's like, okay, that's
right. We don't appreciate, respect you. We don't value your time, but you value ours. By the way, how dare you make me watch all 1 hour and 15 minutes of this free content on YouTube that I could click out of anytime I'd like.
Yeah. It's a tough scene.
I don't think it's 50% though. I think it's far less than that.
It's 80-20 good guys for sure.
Yeah, good guys always come out on top. Did you trick or treat?
No, I did not trick or treat. I didn't get any trick or treaters. A double win for me.
None?
No, we didn't get any. I thought we'd get a couple because there are it's a decent neighborhood for it, and there are kids of that age around. But did you trick or treat?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I figured.
When my daughter's she's like 20 months.
Oh, so that's okay.
It's different. Like, of course, Justine dressed her up, and it's not much, like Minnie Mouse ears and tutors, and then took her out to a couple houses just to get the idea. But when she's old enough, I'll for sure put I'll put a costume on and go out with her. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
My dad used to do that when I was a kid, and I
family costume.
Still remember it.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's encouraged.
For sure. But she's young now. She doesn't know what the fuck's going on. So
that's just weird.
Exactly.
That would just be weird.
Exactly. If I'm full out and she just has no clue what we're doing.
And it's just like, is that a prop so you can trick or treat? Like, what are we doing here?
That's exactly what it is.
No.
Is it a violation when she's old enough for me to also take candy with her?
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to do that, but I'm sure there's a gray area where it's like,
take 2, honey.
Her hands aren't strong. I'll handle this part. Like, wait, what are you doing, guy? I don't know. I'm not a Halloween fan. Shocker.
I have a Ring doorbell, and anyone who has one of these knows that you get like neighborhood alerts from the surrounding area, few mile radius. Yep. And there was one yesterday that they labeled as a property disturbance because someone took all of the candy out of the bucket that they left out front. That is par for the course. If you expect to go a full night without someone coming through and saying, I've struck gold, I don't know what you're thinking. Then sit outside or keep the candy inside. That's insane.
Got to keep the candy inside. Yeah, I mean, that's just a way of society. That's just how it works. That's always been a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just put a sign like "Take 2 or you get shot." That would absolutely keep people from stealing the whole thing.
that's one way to do it. I haven't seen that method utilized here, but
guarantee it works.
I'm sure it does. And we know you're not one to, put out false threats. So I certainly would only take one. Might not even take
I even said two. You can take two. But
we got a super chat early in the show, and it's 100% addressed to you because I can't answer this.
Nothing like some Stokastic to start off our day. Laffy, I'm headed to Philly to watch our Birds take on A-Rod. Any recommendation on sports bars, nightlife? Oh, the Packers are playing in Philly, huh? Not really. No, I don't live in Philly. I mean, there's some good. I don't. I go down there, and because a couple of my buddies live walking distance to the stadium, so I just go down there. I say, hey, take me wherever we want to go, and we'll have some fun. But anything down around that area, you're gonna do fine with. But
there are bars by this, like right by the stadium.
Yeah, Xfinity Live, but it's wild. Like it's just to get a beer, you wait forever. You're walking through. I shouldn't say a stampede, right? That's probably still sensitive.
Yeah,
but
a lot of people.
That was crazy.
Yeah, insane.
How does that even happen? Thank you, Two Tap Sam, for the super chat. Enjoy the game. I was at Lambeau to see the Eagles and Packers a few years ago. Took me 70 hours to get home because all the flights got canceled. But stayed in like a crackhead motel because everything else was filled. This place had bottle openers on the bathroom sink.
Oh, it's good efficiency.
Anyway, what were we saying?
Nothing really. We were just chatting. I don't have a huge like hot take. I thought week 8 was, first of all, shout out to you. You had some really good DFS teams that were on the cusp of greatness.
So I think any other week, obviously, but that not that it matters.
It's all relative. Yeah.
It's all relative, but yeah, it looked good. It's
the
still
Panthers
a good
game.
week. What?
The Panthers game, one of the crazier of the year.
Yeah.
Just stupidity.
Well, you know what it was too? I was very underweight on DJ Moore, which didn't hurt me in the sense that I didn't win money, but it hurt me in the sense that that
20
Hail
point
Mary
play.
Like from PJ Walker in double coverage. How do you let him get open downfield?
He was actually open. That wasn't a Hail Mary style. Like he just caught the pass.
I shouldn't say Hail Mary, but it was like late game, need to score. Defense has to play deep, and he was wide open.
It was strange. Like it was a Hail Mary 100%, but it wasn't like it juggled in the air and he caught it. He was just like actually like, how is he open?
Right.
What are you doing? And then they still lost.
They still lost.
Like
because because he took
off his helmet. Yeah.
How long was that extra point attempt?
It was pretty. I mean, you still should 100% win. Not to mention that kicker also missed a game winner in overtime. So
yes,
you had multiple chances. A shorter one. Yeah. It was just strange. It was a strange week because like running back, I had the right good pieces. I had teams, and I think a lot of people were like this. I had like 5 guys with 35 points and then 4 guys with 2 points. It was just like, sort of right, but so wrong. The Ellinger experiment did not go well. Derrick Henry was just a monster, but also not that useful because there was like 8 running backs that scored that much. It was like even McCaffrey. McCaffrey's unbelievable, not even relevant.
I know. Wade Winigman says Atlanta's DBs were practice squad players. No, I know their secondary is beat up. My point is, one, DJ Moore without that miraculous touchdown does not get anybody there at all, and you're lucky. You're glad not to have him. Second, didn't he just run a go route to the end zone?
Yeah, again, it wasn't. Even if you're like practice squad players, I'm assuming you're familiar with the concept of like, just don't let them catch the Hail Mary. Like, just
don't let them
get
behind you. Yeah.
It was such a weird play. Hey, listen, Atlanta, for all their problems, they hold it together. I mean,
it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, they shouldn't have, because they definitely should have lost that game, but
correct. But
hey, and how about Houston? 314 rushing yards in regulation they allowed. 314 rushing yards.
Yeah. Bad. Really, really bad. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, the Colts, typical. I've never been so happy. It was funny. So this is the last thing, we could dive into it. I'm here, I'm watching the game, and May kind of asked me basically like, what do we need? Because I was watching so intently the Colts Washington game, and I was like, I didn't bet this game, and it doesn't really matter. I just wanted the Colts to lose so badly because I cannot. Everything about that team pisses me off.
You want them to I think you're like me in the sense that you don't want incompetence to go rewarded.
Yeah, punished would be the word that we need to install.
Yeah, yes, but I feel the same way with the Broncos.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you want them to get punished for horrible decision making.
Yeah, not rewarded. It was so bad, and they're kicking field goals from the 1 yard line, the Colts. And it's just like, you have no idea what you're doing. You let Taylor Heineke waltz down the field. Again, McLaurin's catching crazy balls. It was just, what a gutless performance as usual. And the Lions. Another one. Sorry to the darling of Hard Knocks. I mean, come on. Like, come on with this team.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though. This team can score some points at home.
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
that's what they're great for stacking games at home, whether they win or lose, which they will lose.
Cool. I'm pretty sure that's not enough to keep your job. There's only 32 of those jobs.
Oh, no. I don't mean it like that. I mean when the Lions are playing at home, we're doing a DFS show right now. They can get it go. By the way, Colts fired their offensive coordinator this morning.
I know, these poor guys. Like, there's so many sacrificial lambs in the NFL.
I know. I know.
So unfair.
It's so funny you say that. So I had just recorded a video. I get up, I look at my phone. I'm walking downstairs, looking at my phone, and I go, yeah, this guy, he's a sacrificial lamb. Yeah, he's a scapegoat. There's the exact same thoughts that crossed my mind. He is not the reason why. Frank Wright's calling the plays. Come on.
Yeah, it's just like Dan Campbell. They fired the defensive backs coach, not even the D coordinator yet. Like, you just start with this guy, and then so unfair. But that's the nature of the business. I do like that we only have 10 games this week. For me, this is a perfect DFS slate.
It is, and we're very, very much happy to have all of you with us. If you haven't done so yet, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below if you're watching after the fact. If you're listening in podcast form after we've been live, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Leave a rating or review, whatever it may be, preferably appreciative ones. That helps us a lot. But either way, leave a rating or a review and tell your friends about the show. We'd love to have as many people in here as possible each and every day. All right, you ready to talk a little football here?
Let's do it.
About week 9. All right. So, number 1, quarterback. Is this a week? I'm going to kick it off with this question. Is this a week where we go cheap quarterback?
So I think it's not a week that at first glance I'm thinking, oh, let me find money for Josh Allen, because he's in his own tier right now. It's crazy. He's $8,500. I was a little, maybe I shouldn't be. Let me ask you this. I was like, okay, a divisional game on the road. They just played at night. It's not, they should win, of course. It's 13 points. That seemed like a lot of points.
I honestly thought 9.5, 10.
Same.
I was very surprised by 13 points.
That's a lot of points. So that made me kind of look at it. You've got Kyler against Seattle at home, I would assume is the spot for people. That just seems like the spot that you're going to want to target.
The same spot he collapsed in 2 weeks ago. But I do agree with you, by the way. I do agree.
Yeah, I mean, in that game, that's a bizarre game. He had 100 yards rushing in that game.
Yeah, yep.
But like, Herbert seems reasonable inside against Atlanta. You got 2 against the Bears, not in love with that. Burrow against Carolina at home off the short week. Cousins, can't really go to Brady at this point. Rodgers against Detroit. That's going to be fascinating.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. You get to these cheap options, sub 6K, even lower. We're going to talk about them because there's a few that I think I may just pay down for. Let's go through it for a second. Now, Herbert, he's interesting in the sense of you're right. Like you said, you're in a dome. Atlanta's secondary is really, we'll see what they look like, but they're not in good shape. I do like Herbert, but let's not ignore the fact that Mike Williams is out. He's going to be out for a while. Keenan Allen started last game, coming back from a bye, right? Or no, did they have a bye? They had a bye this week. So started week 7, didn't last, comes out because it wasn't right. It wasn't right. And then they come back after the bye yesterday and he doesn't practice. So you got discomfort. So you leave the game and then you don't practice coming back on a Monday. Sure, it's a Monday, like things can develop throughout the week, but it's a very realistic possibility that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are out.
Yeah, that would change a lot. Obviously, you would have, a really cheap stack, which would change the nature of the opportunity costs, particularly at wide receiver. It is interesting because to me, there's not a glaring. I think that Rodgers against Detroit is probably the pretty obvious mid-range target. I'm not. Or what about? It's such a crazy. Geno Smith. Arizona's defense isn't exactly a juggernaut, and he's still continuing to put up numbers. Favorable, it's in Arizona. I don't think that's the worst. Those guys are sub 6K. And of course, Josh Allen, Chat's talking about this, projects better, way better than everybody else. It's just how much is that salary going to come into play? Like you're talking about a $2,500 difference between him and these guys.
Right. It is a big difference. I will point out though, that there aren't a ton of top tier running backs. I think Travis Etienne is probably mega chalk this week, and rightfully so. He's 6,300. Wide receivers, a lot of discount wide receivers. There's definitely a possibility that you can do, and I won't say whatever you want, but this is a lot different than other slates for sure. But still, the mid-range of quarterback, it doesn't excite me. Like Joe Burrow against Carolina. Carolina's secondary, I'm not saying they're world beaters, but they're not horrible. No Jamar Chase. We saw clearly that had an impact last night. Kirk Cousins against Washington, that's fine. It doesn't seem like the best game to stack, although Terry McLaurin on the other side, 25% target share since Heineke's been starting is okay. You mentioned it, Tom Brady. When is he going to figure it out? I don't know. Rams secondary has been terrible. You get down into that lower tier though. Derek Carr is 5,400 coming off a terrible game. Heineke's 54 against Minnesota. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think Trevor Lawrence against the Las Vegas Raiders at 5,200 is crazy. There are some very cheap options that if they came out with big, 30 fantasy point games, I wouldn't be shocked. And very few weeks do I say anything like that.
Yeah, all these guys' volume is there. The talent is there. It's just not sustained. Like I still believe Lawrence has every tool that you could ask for in flashes. I do want to circle back a little, and I know you would agree with me. How shocking. We got a lot right, particularly on the Odd Shopper betting show, which you can always check out on Friday afternoons. The Raiders put up no points.
I did a video I did a Thursday night football video today. I like to get it out early. And I had mentioned how insane it's been. Like the Bengals, even without Chase, they fell. I know you liked the Browns yesterday, but I'm saying they just completely fell flat. They did nothing for the majority of that game. And the Raiders, who had been scoring points in massive bunches. You're talking about a Raiders team that coming into this week had thrown up back-to-back 30-point performances against New Orleans, 38-29, and then 32 against Denver. This team they were the third highest scoring team in the league before they faced a New Orleans defense that wasn't only banged up, but hasn't been good this year.
See, Brandon Wagner gets it. Raiders firing the QB coach incoming. I'm sure they will. Yeah. They'll just pick a random guy.
Yeah, the equipment manager.
It's just like, and let's not get it twisted. The Saints defense is not the Saints defense. That's what I'm saying. I know. I just, that was shocking. Having said that though, I do think you can look to this Jacksonville Raiders game it's one that has a lot of interest for me as well. 47.5 point total. You've got a lot of totals between 46 and 50. The highest total is 50, and there's like 3 other games that are above 47. Kind of interesting.
Very interesting. This is actually a game that I like.
There's nothing lower than that, though, right?
What's that?
Like Lawrence. Sorry to bring it back. I just like, to me, Lawrence is probably the last reasonable option.
I'm not going to Sam Ellinger.
No.
Yeah, let's say, okay, you got a 50 with Arizona, Seattle, a 49.5 with Atlanta, LA, a 49 with Detroit. And I know you went over this, just going over the specific games. A 49 with Detroit and Green Bay. Okay, that's Monday Night Football. 47.5. This is nice. Yeah, Jacksonville Raiders. Yep. 47.5. Bills, Jets. Of course, most of that's going to the Bills. 30-point total, 17-point total. Yeah, and then it kind of falls off a cliff a little bit.
That's where it gets tricky. One of those games certainly is going to emerge, and I think that is. I mean, it's funny. Maybe I didn't even understand when I thought pay down. I thought you were thinking like crazy quarterbacks. It's just normal quarterbacks that are cheap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So normally you're not getting Trevor Lawrence at 5,200. Honestly, you're not getting Derek Carr at 5,400. He's coming off
Rodgers.
Rodgers. That one's so tough for me, man. Like, oh God, it's not shocking that they covered against Buffalo because the Packers do actually have a good secondary, right? And Buffalo's one weakness is running the football. It's not that they were terrible, but they're not the best ground game. They don't have the best running game. So 27-17, it's not shocking. But Green Bay here, I would not be surprised if Aaron Jones just has the game of his life.
This is the Aaron Jones blow-up week.
Is there a better week for it?
No, I mean, it's a competitive spread, 3-point spread.
Yeah, Packers aren't good.
No, I mean, the Lions, as bad as their secondary is, they're 28th in rushing yards allowed per attempt, still over 5 yards per carry. It's pretty bad.
Okay, what about here we go. What about Justin Fields?
So, tricky part about Justin Fields, because I get it, and I'm the only. I love Justin Fields. Like I think he's really. My biggest problem is that you are, and Alex talks about this on our strategy show. I'm not sure you're going to stack him. Or are you thinking to put him with Mooney? Because to me, if you wanted to do a skinny stack with Mooney, okay. If you run him alone, now you're incurring an extra spot, which makes it that much harder.
It would probably be Mooney. It can't be Cole Kmet.
No, it's Mooney or nobody.
Yeah.
But
and it's real difficult on the other side, excuse me, for Miami, because you will, like, Tua's price came. Remember last week we were talking about how easy it was to get to Tua, but then you still got really high priced options. So in all of my, I think I had, of all of my lineups, I think I had 40% Miami stacks or something crazy like that. The problem is that most of them didn't have Tua and Waddle and Hill, which wasn't a bad thing because there were so many other big performances. The issue, like the one lineup that I screenshotted you the other day, I was like, hey, we might have some legs here. Trent Sherfield.
Yeah.
Trent Sherfield. So your tertiary options in Miami are difficult to get to. So if you're stacking this game, maybe it's not the craziest thing to do, like and I'm not even advocating for it. I'm just talking through it. Maybe a Fields, Mooney, with the Hill bring back or something like that makes more sense than full stacking Miami, because Waddle went from, I think, 6,700 to 7,400. Hill's the same price, but Tua's price came up even more. So if you thought it was hard to stack the big two, and they've been amazing week in and week out with Tua Tagovailoa, both of them. If you thought it was difficult last week, this week's going to be even harder.
And that's the thing. That's half the battle. Like, even to bring it back to Josh Allen, it's not that Josh Allen is priced to the premium. It's that you're going to need Diggs too. So now you got two priced to the premium. Like, Tua, what good is Tua without his receivers? He's not going to be running for various reasons at this point. Fields, you can't bring it back with Fields. It's either play Fields and bring it back with the obvious options. You're never going to bring back a Miami stack with Mooney. I mean,
yeah.
You don't want to do that though.
Like
more likely than not.
You can, but you're not going to feel great. He is 4,700, but that Miami secondary has been putrid. I can tell you that much, but that's about it. I don't have anyone else at quarterback.
No, me neither.
Let's talk running back. Hey, before we do though, shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks. Wonderful site over there, wonderful format. There's no sharks, optimizers, mass entries, anything. Just daily prop-based contests. You're building lineups with props. There's no juice on either side. You're just taking the over or the under, putting them into a lineup. And if you hit all 5 of them, you do a 5-player lineup, you're 10Xing. Unlike a traditional book or traditional parlay, if you hit 4X or if you hit 4 or 5, you still 2X. You even get money back with 3 of 5, which you're never going to see anywhere else. You also get, and this is, I mean, this, you want to talk about sweet. This isn't even sweetening the pot. This is as good as it gets. Not only when you use the link in the description or the one that Tyler's going to put in the chat right now, not only do you get up to $100 first match deposit bonus, okay, which is big in its own right, you also get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum entirely free. All of our tools entirely free. It's $120 value when you sign up at PrizePicks using the link, deposit, get your deposit bonus, get your free month of Stokastic Plus. And I'm not just talking NFL, I'm talking NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, everything. Everything out there, all of it's over there. And PrizePicks is a nice site too. I know Eric loves playing there. He's in California, not a legal betting state, so it's a great place to do that. And Ben, if it's somebody like you, you can mix them together. You can do college football, NFL, and NBA all in the same lineup.
Yeah, there's just a lot of different opportunities, and you can really, sometimes with, we talk about this, the books have major discrepancies, and over on PrizePicks, there are categories that you just can't, like fantasy score. You can't find that at a retail book. That's something that we project with the tools here. You can actually parlay stuff like that up, which is a really interesting wrinkle and stuff, really just categories that you don't find anywhere else. That's my favorite part about it.
All right. Well, you should check them out. Get your free month. Get the first match deposit bonus up to $100. Win some money over there. Again, especially if you're in states that betting is not legal. Plus, all of the research you do that we talk about throughout the week, that you do, that you listen to on the channel, the articles you read, all that, it's all applicable, right? Like it's all the same thing when you're looking at plus our player prop projections, our player prop tool and everything in Stokastic, you get that for free, our PrizePicks tools. So check it out, prizepicks.com, sponsor of the strategy show. And after you sign up, after you get your free month using that link, download the app store, Google Play Store, wherever it is. Pretty sick. All right, running backs. Oddly enough, I don't think it's going to take us that much time. I'm very, very curious to know where your top options are, because cursory look, my first take, and that's what you and I do here. We kind of build a foundation, look forward, first time of the week. I'm looking at probably 5 guys, maybe 4, probably 5 that I really like this week.
So first question I have for you, if those guys for the Chargers are banged up, does that make, because Eckler's $1,000 clear of everybody else?
I know.
Do you care who's out there, or is he in play regardless for you?
He's in play regardless. And I think another one of those reasons is that with some cheap quarterbacks that are actually in high total games, with some cheap wide receivers that we'll get to that are in high total games that actually have respectable target shares, I don't think it's going to be that tough to get to Eckler.
I don't think it'll be that tough either. It's just a weird, like the Herbert Eckler stack is always like an awkward build.
Sure. Yeah, it is. It is. But the guy has 28 targets over the last 2 games.
Oh, I get it. It's just a weird allocation of salary, because then it's like, you're going to probably want a tight end or a wide receiver in there. Do you bring it back with a Falcon? I get Eckler.
Oh yeah. I don't even want to think about bringing it back with a Falcon.
Yeah. Like Kyle Pitts, maybe. You got Dalvin Cook next against the Washington defense. That is, I think average at best. Since they've changed that scheme, I mean, he did have 25 touches last week. He had a better game than I actually thought. Credit to Dalvin Cook, and he scored again, but Jonathan Taylor, I'm not really looking to get to. Your boy Aaron Jones at 74. He's got to be on your list.
He's on the list. Yeah.
He's on the list.
My hope would be that the price point, I don't think it's going to suppress ownership a lot, but I think it could knock it down a little bit here. I still think Aaron Jones is going to be relatively popular, but I really like this spot for Aaron Jones a lot. I honestly don't think it's crazy to play some AJ Dillon either. If let's say this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, right? I always preload a couple questions to bounce off of you for this first look show, and the audience as well. Let us know in chat where you guys are at. It makes the show a whole lot better. Let's say Aaron Jones is just real chalky. I wouldn't be shocked if running back ownership looks like this: ETN 1, Aaron Jones 2, Austin Eckler 3 this week, barring any. Would you agree in some respect? Like it should be around there?
Yeah, I think certainly those three are going to be amongst the highest owned.
Yeah. If Aaron Jones is very chalky, I'm still going to play a lot of him, but I think that's probably going to funnel me to some AJ Dillon as well, who's just been essentially from a DFS perspective left for dead.
The thing about so AJ Dillon, there's a couple of things, and I get what you're doing there. Obviously, there's leverage components. His price isn't as cheap as I'd want it to be. And then, of course, the volume and game script issues potentially can rise up. But there's also a chance that they gash him. And Green Bay's been more than apt to ride the hot hand at times. So
they just haven't had a positive game script in a long time.
Very true.
Wouldn't be if you have a positive game script, I wouldn't be shocked at all if AJ Dillon gets back to seeing a good amount of work. And you know that on the goal line, he could fall in the end zone for 2 touchdowns. Like you could have a 16 carry, 100-yard, 2 touchdown game. I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, there's no argument there. That's something that's underutilized, where we fall into these traps of like, oh, this team, they don't run the ball. It's like, well, they're losing. They're always losing. And now they're favorite. And I know the Packers aren't the team we typically talk about with that mentality, but the reality right now is that's where we're at. Then you've got, perfect example. Look at Josh Jacobs. He was the best player in the league over the last 3 weeks. And it's like, wow, he had a horrible game. Not really. They just they literally scored no points.
Right.
He had 10 carries. That's
not even like it wasn't like he was bottled up in the sense that Mixon was yesterday.
Mixon, I see chat just burying our boy here. It's not his fault. They're right that burying Mixon sucks. Mixon.
Oh yeah.
It's not his fault though.
None of it.
At one point last night, he had 4 catches for 5 yards. And it was just like, well, even when they try to get him the ball in space, it's not working. That offensive line is so bad. Maybe I'm wrong. You think that Mixon bears some responsibility?
Yeah. Really? Yeah, I don't think you can be that bad without taking any responsibility.
I have to look at like the yards after contact. I don't have it in front of me, but he gets no favors with that offensive line.
No. I'm with you there. Listen, I'm not saying that all I'm saying is that Mixon shouldn't be absolved of everything when you've been that bad. He's dead last in the league in yards per attempt. Yeah.
That's not that hurts my case for the best running back since Barry Sanders. I don't know.
It doesn't help it.
It doesn't help him. That's true. It shouldn't even say it hurts it. It just doesn't help. Yeah. So you've got Jacobs on the bounce back. So people mention Brady. I'm not brave enough to go to Brady, but Fournette at 66 is a price drop, $700 difference to Jacobs. He can catch the ball. I know White garners some of it, but I feel like Fournette's still in line for a boatload of touches.
This matchup on the ground doesn't worry you?
First of all, it doesn't worry me to the extent where I'm like, you can't run against the Rams. I don't think that's true at all. Also,
I don't think it is anymore either. I think you're right.
Like they're a strong run defense. They're not my preferred target, but you can run against them. They're allowing 4.3 yards per rush attempt. That's 13th in the league. That's solid. They're a fine defense. Fournette also can catch the ball. In some ways, I almost hope they fall behind. He'll be fine like that again. I know White can catch the ball as well, but this is a guy, he's only a couple weeks removed from an 11 target game.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I get it. The problem is that offense has just been dreadful, but there's also someone in the passing game that I like a lot this week from Tampa. It's not Julio. Don't worry.
We gotta.
I can't. I honestly, I feel like Mixon's gonna have the game eventually, but I don't think I can do it this week. I know you were talking about Fournette, but I'm saying like I don't. Mixon right now should be a $5,800 player. As crazy as that sounds,
it's really hard to argue. And it's one of those things. Part of me is like, oh, Chase is out, so they'll give him it. In some ways, it makes it worse because these teams are just like, we're not going to allow you to run. And Bill Castle from chat, upset special this week, Carolina over the Bengals. That is a great hot take. I'm not saying I am on that, but I think that that's definitely possible. That's a good one.
That team is kind of playing right now.
Carolina's defense is not that bad.
No, I've been saying that we both have all year. I've been saying they're not that. Listen, this is a team that only a couple of years ago spent every single draft pick on defense. Like their defense shouldn't be that bad, right?
No, and it's not. It really.
Brian Burns is one of the best DNs in the league.
Yeah, they wanted like 7 number 1 picks for him.
Yeah, that was basically just like a fuck you. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're not trading him. But it's not a bad defense. It wouldn't shock me at all. Here's a fun one. I'm so glad someone brought this up. I got him in the run sheet. Moki, I guess it is. Moki. Ronnie Rivers, set it and forget it. All right, so let's dive into this one a little bit. This gets interesting.
I love Ronnie Rivers. I'm a fan.
Where do you go to school?
Fresno State.
Okay. So the Bucs defense allowed 231 rushing yards last week to Baltimore, 173 the week before to Carolina, 77 to Pittsburgh. They don't count. That is not a professional run game by any stretch. It's not.
Really not.
It's not. Atlanta, 151. You're talking Tyler Algier. Carolina, you're talking Dante Foreman and Chuba Hubbard, even though Foreman's pretty decent. Maybe you guys will see that soon enough. I think you will. Kansas City, 189. That's the last 5 weeks. You want to talk about a run defense that is evaporated. And clearly they've had some injuries. I understand that. The issue that I have with this spot, with Ronnie Rivers or anybody for LA is one, Sean McVay is real, for lack of a better word, bipolar when it comes to his rushing, his rushing rotations or his backfield. Also, the LA Rams offensive line when it comes to run blocking is really bad. So it's like, yeah, Tampa's run defense has been bad, but what makes us assume that LA can beat them? And then to use your talking point that you always use, then you have to get the player right, even if they are running well.
That's my biggest problem. I like Ronnie Rivers, and I think there's a chance in time, if he gets the right role, he could be pretty good. He can catch the ball. The problem is you just highlighted it. When you start targeting teams, like teams within teams, it's really difficult because all it takes is one thing to go wrong when a situation is this fluid. Like you're incurring, Ronnie Rivers misses a block and Stafford fumbles, and then you just never see him again. Like it's that type of situation. Henderson breaks off a long run. They activate another running back and split it 3 ways. It's really difficult to confidently deploy guys like that. Now he is 4,800, so I get the merit if you say, yeah, but there are situations where he just takes over this backfield. That is true, but I think more often than not, there's too much risk for not enough reward because there's also a chance the Rams can't run at all, no matter who's back there.
Yep. And yes, Steven, they did send him back to the practice squad. My assumption is that they just bring him back up for week 9. Now, The trade deadline is today. Ben and I are doing this show. It's 11 Eastern on Tuesday. Trade deadline, I think, is 2:00 Eastern. So it's possible that they sign another running back and then they don't bring Rivers back up. But in the event that they don't, Ben, my guess is that they would just bring him back up to the active roster.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on it. That's my thought as well, though.
Larry said 4 p.m. Okay. It's definitely this afternoon. I know that. So we'll pay attention. FK Cooler said there's much opportunity cost getting too cute at running back. I totally agree with that. But I think there are good, Pollard last week, smash spot. There were some really, really good, Kamara and Hopkins were my two biggest stands of the week. I know you were very high on Hopkins as well. Sometimes you get them right. Sometimes you get them wrong. Oftentimes I take stands on guys, get them real wrong. Kamara wasn't that popular. That was nice. But he's also the type of guy that can give you 200 combined yards from scrimmage. And how long have we been saying the guy's going to find the end zone eventually?
Yeah. And when he does, it seems to come in bunches.
What do you have, 3?
It was, I lost count.
But I agree with Coolers in that, if you're going for you just laid it out beautifully. But if you're going for running backs in that spot where there's already so many question marks, and that means that by doing so, you're foregoing some of these other running backs, it's the quickest way to get yourself into a heap of shit.
Yeah, it's definitely a dangerous game. More often than not, just risk isn't worth it. That's the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, it's not. But I will say this much. When we were talking about Mixon, I'm not going back to Mixon, but I want to ask you about some guys around them. Obviously, ETN for you over Mixon, right? You're a big ETN guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. What about Ramondre Stevenson? Because, he only had 71 rushing yards last game. This guy's involvement in the passing game now has been expanding exponentially. I mean, 5 targets in week 6. Week 7, 8 targets. Of course, they were playing from behind, but in a neutral and positive game script, depending on where that game was against the Jets, 8 targets for Stevenson, back-to-back games now.
There's no doubt that he's someone, again, some of these problems, it's not a problem for him. They could fall behind. Well, he can clearly do both. I think for me, my biggest concern is probably where he's priced, in the sense that it's a pretty target-rich environment. You got ETN right there, Kenneth Walker, your boy Mostert, who was non-existent last week, but I think you could go back to him potentially. He's always got some upside. You've got Foreman right there. Benjamin, well, we got to see how that situation plays out. I'm not really looking to go there, to be honest. You just have a lot of names in a small, little confined area.
That is true.
That's all.
No, I get it. But I am very much encouraged by that amount of passing work, because remember, James White isn't there. They don't have that guy anymore.
No Burkhead, no White, right. Woodhead.
Stevenson has ran 65 routes over the last 2 games, averaging 2.25 yards per route run, and he is second in receiving yards behind only Jacoby Myers. 65 routes in 2 games for a running back that's also getting, potentially 16, 17 carries.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. Interesting position this week for sure. I'm with you on Raheem Mostert. I love going back to him here, especially after he probably pissed a lot of people off last week. You knew that could happen though. With these insane, with these high scoring environments, you know that it could either be the receivers or the running back on any given week. Last week, it was the receivers. What do you make of Ken Walker?
So, yeah, he's a tricky one. Certainly, the lack of crazy game was probably a good thing if you want to play him, because if he would have had another big game and if he was 6,200, he would be the most popular player, I think. He really is not giving you anything in the passing game, but I will say they've also played from ahead. So maybe he would if something happened. I don't think so, but he's getting the carries. He's got 21, 23, and 18 carries over the last 3 games, all wins. It's Arizona. It feels like a pretty good spot.
I mentioned AJ Dillon to you as a cheaper option. I think could be viable, especially if he goes entirely overlooked despite a really, really good matchup. Is there anyone else down here? I have one guy that I might have some interest, tepid interest in, but it goes back again to the opportunity cost thing. And I'm off of him, I think, for that reason. Maybe Sprinkles. Are there any cheap options you like?
So I don't think that I'm going to get here as it stands currently, but I do think it's worth pointing out that the Falcons draw a super matchup against the Chargers' run defense is atrocious.
Horrible.
5.7 yards allowed per rush attempt, last in the league. The Falcons only run the ball. The problem is they run it with multiple guys. And Algier, 14 carries last week. Caleb Huntley, 16 carries. Mariota can move. I don't know if anyone can get 25 touches in that offense. That's my biggest concern.
Yeah, agreed. You know they don't want to throw the football.
No.
You know that Algier he's still the number one right now. But what does that entail? That's not like being number one on the Titans. So, yeah, I'm with you. The only other guy, I was going to mention Algier. Same feeling as you. The only other guy I would mention is Devin Singletary, just because they're 13-point favorites. But even there, you have Isaiah McKenzie getting rushing touchdowns. You have Josh Allen who can vulture him. And you have Devin Singletary that, if they're not in a close game, he's not going to get those pass. He's not going to get those targets either. If they're playing with a lead, Devin Singletary is not getting opportunities in the passing game. We've seen that. Look at the blowout. Look at the big wins they've had this year. 2 targets, 3 targets, 2 targets, 2 targets. It's not enough to get you there if they're playing well.
And again, nearly 2 touchdown favorites.
Yeah. I guess that's it. I think we covered everything at running back, huh?
Yeah, I think the mid-range is probably going to be where people land. And certainly, if you've got the money, paying up for Eckler is going to make a lot of sense.
A couple people mentioned James Conner, but now what's that?
Yeah, we have to, he's sporting the Q tag. We'll see if he comes back.
Yeah, even if he does, I think Eno Benjamin still has a role. I think Darrell Williams, would you be shocked at all if this ends up being a 3-man rotation in the backfield for the rest of the season once Conner comes back?
No, I kind of feel like, the Chase Edmonds, that's kind of what they wanted in some regards, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Wide receivers. Then we'll do tight ends. Get a couple punt defenses in there. See if there's anything that stands out. And have all 300 plus of you watching. If you haven't done so, though, atone for your sins, my friends. Click that thumbs up button. It only takes a single second out of your day, and it makes our lives better in the process. So if you want to make someone else's day by doing absolutely nothing, hit that thumbs up. But no, in all seriousness, it helps us a lot. Wouldn't ask you otherwise. Subscribe, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment. The YouTube algorithm works in mysterious ways, but we do know that engagement and liking the video is huge for us. Also, you know what else is huge for everybody, Ben?
What is that?
I thought you would know this.
I could be the no-brainer offer.
It could be $200 free at BetMGM. Yeah.
There's a lot of great, I will say there's a lot of good deals, or we got deals on deals, but this is one. When you're getting $200 for doing practically nothing, that's a good opportunity.
I said it the other day on a show. Maybe it was you and me on the Sunday show that say, all right, we have PrizePicks where you're getting a free month of Stokastic plus Platinum, and you're getting the $100 first match deposit bonus. Then you have BetMGM where you bet $10 on an NBA game on a money line. Not only do you get paid if you win the bet, but you also get paid $200 no matter what by depositing $10 and putting that on any game. And if you lose, you still get the $200. Link is in the description. Tyler just threw it in the chat right now. It's not in PA, New York, or Mississippi, but any other state that BetMGM is out there, you got it. It's literally it's the easiest money you're going to make. And DFS sites don't do these promos anymore. And if you're not on DraftKings Sportsbook, I bet you're already on DraftKings DFS. You won't get those new user promos. If you're not on FanDuel Sportsbook, you're already on FanDuel DFS. You're not going to get those promos. So in this case, you're getting free money by betting a basketball game, even if you don't like basketball. But if you don't have to like a sport to sweat it. I'll tell you that much. you don't even have to sweat it because you're getting $200. You could lose all of that money and you're only down $10, or you could build a huge bankroll on it with $10 to start with. But yeah, there've been a lot of, there was another one out there too. I think it was like we did 3 where it was just insane free money opportunities, free subscriptions. You got to take it. You got to strike while the iron's hot is what I've heard, Ben.
That's a saying for a reason. I'm sure it dates back to the Middle Ages, but it was true then and it's true now.
That is true. When is the last time you've ironed anything?
Is that again? Like, what are we doing here?
Have you ever ironed anything?
No, I don't think so. I don't like things where the slightest deviation results in scolding. Anything where it's like you either do it right or you're horribly scolded are things I tend not to mess around with, like boiling water, ovens, irons, fire in general. Like, what are we doing here?
So, like, say you were cooking pasta. I know, hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you were cooking pasta. Would the idea of, picking up the pot of hot water, right? Like with the pasta after it's cooked, over to the sink and straining it. Does the thought of that, just carrying a boiling pot of water over, does it make you uneasy just thinking about it?
I mean, it doesn't make me uneasy because I know that's just as likely as a meteor crashing through the house. Like, I'm never going to
drop it. Yeah.
No, just for me being in
for
that
you
situation.
To cook it.
Like, no chance. It's again, you know what I don't like? If anyone ever tells you a story about that, it only ends one way. Scolding. Like, you either do it right and you get no reward, or you do it wrong and it's a serious punishment.
A big punishment. Yeah, like your feet are purple for life.
Like, what exactly are we doing? That's what I'm saying. It's just like, oh, cool. Like, I'm just gonna, I don't know. I find it kind of crazy that society just has things like that are just like ingrained. Like, imagine if it was just like every time you had to walk to the bathroom, you just had to like walk over like a pit of alligators, like on a balance beam. No, it's like, well, if you make it, nothing happens. The slightest misstep and you're just completely fucked.
What, just to take a dump, you have to
it's just like, what exactly are we doing here with all these things where there's just scalding hot water? That seems real dangerous.
You're telling me that are you telling me that you're equating that to cooking pasta?
I'm saying that the downside is equal.
Okay.
Is it not? If someone said to you, would you rather fall in a pit of alligators or get scolded by smoldering like water? I would have to think about it. I wouldn't just be like, oh, give me the water. That sounds fine. When's the last time I wore a suit? A couple weeks ago, I was at a wedding. It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, you take all that shit to a drop. By the way, I haven't used an iron in quite a while either. I would use it at the beach. I'm down at the beach. I unpack my stuff and I haven't used one in a while either. So it's not something that we do often, but
keep that same mentality and think about every time you drive a car. I do think about that actually.
Yeah. I took something to the dry cleaners while I was at the beach and I never picked it up and went home and completely forgot about it.
I'm going to go get it. Claim it.
I should. It was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. I'll just be like, I was in here a while ago.
It was a comforter that I had a party and somebody puked on it.
Yeah, that's
not
one.
Great. Should just leave it there.
Donate to the gods.
Did you see this? By the way, like I said, $10 into $200, free money over there at BetMGM. Just make sure your state has it. I'm assuming there's a couple days left on that. If that they don't tell us when it's going to end, but it's about there because they usually run them for 2 weeks and it's been like 10, 11 days already, I think. So, David, Colasanto, $50 super chat. Hey guys, I made it to the Hall of Fame last week with a 10 grand free roll hit.
That's living nicely.
Wow. How do I get my free membership? Thanks. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, David. You did not need to send us a $50 super chat, but we greatly appreciate it. Congratulations. Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Good looks there, right there.
Yeah, he's on it.
It's right next to you up there. Tyler pulled that up quick. Actually, he had that ready, but still solid work. Just download the Stokastic profile picture. Assuming, did he have the avatar? He did. Oh,
yeah, it's all there.
Yeah, just tweet. Wait, you already tweeted it.
Yeah. So if you haven't, I'll take this one. If you haven't anyone hasn't gotten in touch with you, just email Stokastic at support.
Nope.
Take care. So the other way. Support at Stokastic. I confuse that every time.
Every time.
Every time.
That's why nobody's getting their free month.
Yep. There's a lot of people emailing into the ether because of me.
Yeah, sending out the right email is as dangerous as walking over a moat of alligators.
Nope. The downside is far less.
Depends who you send it to.
Well, that's
all
fair.
Right. Wide receivers. Let's talk about the top here. This is where I don't know where. Usually I have a decent idea where you're leaning. Sometimes you'll throw me some curveballs. I don't know where you're leaning here because I don't know where I'm leaning here. Kupp, Jefferson, Hill, Diggs, Devontae Adams. I'm not sure there's one guy of this bunch. Definitely, I do like Jefferson. Don't get me wrong, and Diggs for sure. But I'm not sure there's one guy of the bunch at their price points that I just go, he is way better on this slate than anybody else.
I'd agree with that. I will say this is more of a personal thing. Justin Jefferson and me are not like every time I play him, it does not work. I liked him last week quite a bit.
Johnny Munn game.
It's just, like, what are we doing? Part of this is going to be who do you play at quarterback, of course. Like when you play Cousins, you're getting Jefferson. When you play Allen, you're getting Diggs. If you play Carr, you're going to use Adams. I think that makes sense. I think independently of my quarterback, I actually like DeAndre Hopkins again. 27 targets. I don't think all the questions that people had are really relevant right now. They're going to use him and use him all the time in this iteration of offense. He's the cheapest of everyone we've talked about. Kupp sporting the Q tag. I don't think I can do it. I'm probably going to say Hopkins above all of them, but you could make an easy case for most.
Yeah, I didn't mention Hopkins because he's sub 8K, but you're right. We need to credit Seattle's defense. They figured a little something out. I'm not saying they're facing good teams. I get it. I mean, the Chargers,
the Giants.
Yeah, Chargers a good team, but they were banged up. But how are we not? And you and I have said this before the first game he played. And you really talked about this a lot last week with DeAndre Hopkins as well. How are we not looking at a guy that has 27 targets through his first two games, an offense that has been largely anemic this season, gets back an outright stud in DeAndre Hopkins? Anyone wanting to say he's washed, I would assume that you would now put that. Did you see that one-handed touchdown grab?
Yeah, I did. It was just like, why are you throwing that? Oh, that's why. Because that guy just goes and gets it. Incredible catch.
Yeah. He has a 37% target share through two games that he's played this season. I'll continue to play DeAndre Hopkins until his price is either too exorbitant or I'm proven wrong. Because right now with a 50-point total in this game, I'm willing to put aside the way that Seattle's played. I'm willing to put anything aside. If you're getting double-digit targets a game and you are DeAndre Hopkins and you're the clear goal line or you're the clear red zone target, we know that. How do you not love somebody like him every week? He should be more expensive than this.
Yeah, and he will be soon enough. The price is coming up. It's going to continue to rise. So I get it. And it is true. Like if you are paying down elsewhere, it's not going to be that hard to get to, Diggs and Allen combos like that. So you can do it. I think it's kind of the next tier to me is a little more interesting. Like T Higgins off maybe the buyback, certainly Tyler Boyd as well with no chase, but got like Gabe Davis is almost 7,000. Like some of these guys feel that's a lot of money.
Your hope, because he's really only going to get 5, 6, maybe 7 targets.
Yeah, I mean, we know what he can do, but that's a lot. Pittman, can he exist with Ellinger? He still had 9 targets. The ADOT was lower, and honestly, at the end of the game, Ellinger threw a strike to him, and he dropped it, a long pass that really could have set them up. So I'm not going to completely write Pittman off. It's just in New England is not my favorite situation. That's more the problem. Sure.
I honestly would rather go to Alec Pierce here because
that guy's pretty good.
Yeah. He's not a bad player. He's a second round rookie, right? Like this isn't a third day end of the draft.
No, he's
rookie.
A player.
Yeah. Alec Pierce is good. What is he? 40? He's 44, I think. $4,400. And how about this? This is what really stood out to me. A lot of these cheap guys, you're hoping for that boom, right? You know that it can be bad. You know the floor is low on any of these cheap guys. He had 5 targets last week. 3 of them were 20-plus yards downfield. You just need Ellinger to hit a couple of those. But the fact that Pierce got targeted 3 times on deep balls, 4,400, especially against the Patriots team that, I know this sounds cliche, but they do like to take your top option out of the game. I don't hate it. But back to the top real quick. Coolers had a comment that I do agree with. We may get Devontae Adams at some low ownership after last game. I think we will, for sure. It's just a matter of what do we want to do with him? I still believe Adams, even though it's not Rodgers, I still believe Adams has the ceiling where he can blow the roof off of a game. This game has a nice total. I like Lawrence with like a Kirk or a Zay Jones or a Marvin Jones. If you don't go ETN there, the run back with Adams seems very natural. And I don't know if you've seen Christian Kirk's price point, but if you are stacking Jacksonville, Christian Kirk is 5,500.
Both ways I think work because Carr and Adams with a Kirk run back is completely fine for me. There's some good, you mentioned no one jumped off the page up top. I would agree. The guys that jumped off the page to me were right here. Christian Kirk and obviously McLaurin at 5,900 against Minnesota's dumpster fire of a secondary, 7.7 yards allowed per pass attempt. That's horrendous. These guys, you got to give them pretty strong looks. And then, if Rodgers is going to get there, somebody, probably Romeo Dobbs, is going to have to lead that charge. So he's in that price point as well.
Or if Alan Lazard comes back, he's $6K flat, same price tier as McLaurin, right? LA is one we got to pay attention to because it could be DeAndre Carter, it could be Joshua Palmer. Keenan Allen might not play. There's a lot of moving parts there.
That's a tough team because they got guys all over the place and they've got Eckler too.
This will make you uncomfortable, but I got to throw it out there anyway. Mike Evans.
No.
I think Mike Evans could be an excellent low-owned play this week.
It's going to be low-owned. He's going to get the targets. It's funny. I think one of the many things that don't align to my perception is how good the Rams defense is. Like their secondary is honestly like his Ramsey, but
they're not good right now.
He's got some like digs from the Cowboys in him where it's like he makes a couple of spectacular plays, but in between those, it's all bad because he goes for a lot. Huh.
Yeah.
Would you rather play Evans or Godwin?
In this spot, I think I would rather go Evans. And I'll tell you why. If you were looking just at listen, deep balls aren't everything, especially if a quarterback can't hit them. I understand that. So, I get it. But Mike Evans has been getting an insane amount of deep attempts. Just crazy. He has 9 deep attempts over the last 2 games. Last week against Baltimore, 6 deep attempts to Mike Evans. 6 targets, 20 plus yards downfield. So it's like, okay, did he have an insane game? No, he still had 6 for 123, which is not a bad game. That's without him really capitalizing on that type of volume and high upside volume that you're getting on targets deep downfield. So is it a risky play with that, how this offense is functioning right now? Of course it is. I'm not saying it isn't. But is Mike Evans somebody that if he's going to keep being used in this capacity against a secondary that's struggled and he's the primary red zone threat because we know he's always been, I still think if you're getting it, you could get him at 5% this week.
There's no doubt he could be low owned, and it's true. Friend of the show, Stewie, just hopped in and was asking about like who possibly gets traded. We got to see if some of these teams pick some people up and change personnel. I'm not sure if it's going to make we just kind of have to wait and see. Like maybe Green Bay adds someone, maybe one of these teams is a seller. How low? I don't know how much lower I need to go before, like you've got guys in the 4s. You talked about Zay Jones. I will say this Terrence Marshall guy on Carolina, it's not that bad.
They were excited about him when they got him. They just never used him up until last week.
They used him last week. He had multiple chances in the red zone, in the end zone. He's out there all the time. I just don't know what exactly I'm paying up for this week, though. Maybe if I go like Premier Stack and I need a cheapie, but I think I'd go more balanced at first glance.
I mean, they got rid of Curtis Samuel because they thought Terrace Marshall could be the guy.
He's got some talent.
He does. He does. I don't know. I love this. I think we're on the same page. There's a lot here. Listen, even Marvin Jones and Zay Jones, 4,300 and 4,100. If this is a game where Trevor Lawrence has to throw a ton, one of these guys could have themselves a game. Very cheap options in a game with a nice 47.5 point total. We talked about Mooney. I think Mooney as a one-off is fine. DeAndre Carter, you might be without Keenan Allen. We already know Mike Williams is out. Rondell Moore had a nice game, finally getting actual decent targets recently. I'll go on further. Even Jacoby Myers at 5,400. His volume has looked very nice lately. He's the clear number one in New England, and Indianapolis is far more inferior through the air than they are on the ground.
There's definitely opportunities. I'm sorry, I was half paying attention because
you're good. I was talking about Jacoby Myers, but because what? Because of
someone mentioned Laviska Shenault in chat. God. My boy, I love that guy, but I don't know if we can actually do that. I mean, I played some Chris Moore last week, and he just apparently is a Ponzi scheme because he didn't have any he didn't even have targets. So it's buyer beware down here. When you get down again, I still think the theme of this show is opportunity cost, and especially if you're playing in these tournaments, like trying to win the millie, you can't really win those with, even if you have a low owned guy who, points per dollar shows up, you need raw points from these guys. So unless you think the guy can get, 20 fantasy points, it's really hard to look to some of these guys, even if you think their floor could be, 4 for 40, 4 for 50 type outputs.
That's fair. I think that's probably why I like these cheap options for Jacksonville, because we've already seen Trevor Lawrence attempt 40 plus passes many times this season.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence he's going to have some games. There's no doubt. I'm a little upset because I thought that Jacksonville would be ahead of schedule, and it really doesn't seem to be happening, but the volume is there. He's not a zero rushing, and I know he's not Lamar either, but those points add up. He can give you a handful of points on the ground as well.
All right, last thing at wide receiver. I have to ask you about this because we talked about the other side. What do you want to do with the Metcalfs and Lockett's this week? Highest total game.
Honestly, I don't have a great answer. Lockett dropped a ridiculous touchdown. Then he made amends.
Hit him in the face.
That's not Lockett. Like, he doesn't do that. Those are usually guys I roster, and I didn't roster Lockett. So I'm not sure why that happened. DK Metcalf, I mean, I was like, oh, he's going to be, he's not going to play, or he's going to be limited. He still had 10 targets in a game that they won 27-13. So you can look to these guys, I guess, certainly in the Geno stack, of course. I'd prefer to target Kyler, Hopkins, and that side, and maybe bring it back with them, or put Kenneth Walker in there. They're not priorities for me. They're in play, but I still want to kind of dig into that a little more.
And we'll have a better idea on ownership too. Tomorrow.
That's important.
Yeah. Tomorrow ownership will be updated. The top stacks tool, boom bust tool, all that. And they update throughout the week. Obviously you get a whole lot. Actually, I think they should be updated. They should be up today at some point later today. And if you want to check them out, 3 free days, entirely free, Stokastic plus NFL tools, everything that we have for NFL, completely free for 3 days, no strings attached. If you don't like it, I think you will like it, but if you don't, you can ditch it after that. So take advantage of that. 3 free days, Stokastic plus NFL tools. Link is in the description. Tyler can throw it in the chat as well if you haven't done so yet. All right, this has been a thorough search for good plays on this. This is why this show is so fun. But now we get to tight ends, and tight end gets a little weird. But it's very possible that Gerald Everett could easily be the best tight end on this slate, depending on how things break for the Chargers.
He is someone that his ownership and his projection are going to be vastly impacted by who's out there. Like, he could be the obvious chalk pay up. He could also be, someone that's not really relevant to the slate. So I get it. Are you going to go to Kyle Pitts, who's starting to show some life, or are you going to say everyone wants to jump back in? I'm going to go elsewhere.
Yeah. It's like, all right, starting to show some life. Yeah, 5 for 80 touchdown. That's good. It's whatever.
The nice 5 for 80. He was moving.
Yeah, you would say that no matter what.
I would.
He had 5 for 87 against Seattle. Just didn't score. No one's talking. I'm not shitting on Pitts. I like Pitts at his price point. I think he's perfectly fine. Last week was 4K. I wasn't excited about it, but I did have some Kyle Pitts. He's fine. But I guess the question would be, like, let's assume that Keenan Allen's also out and Everett and Pitts are getting the similar ownership. I would rather go to Gerald Everett.
We had that question in chat. I would too, pending that's true. If all the Chargers are there, it would be the other way for me.
I can't believe I'm about to say this.
What?
This might be. This might be the week that I get to some Evan Ingram.
Yeah. I'd say that for me too, but every week is the week that I get to Evan Ingram.
He hasn't been that bad recently, actually.
He's a hell of a player. 6 targets or more in 4 straight games.
Always take it too far.
He scored. No joke. His price, I think we'd all agree, his price should be more towards like the Hayden Hurst range than where he is. He shouldn't be $3,300. That's just wrong.
He's basically a 4K tight end, given how bad the position is.
8K, but I'll agree to disagree.
Why is he 700 cheaper than Mike Gesicki?
I don't know. I mean, I get that, like Foster, Moreau, and obviously Conklin last week had a huge week. To me, Evan Ingram is a better play this week than those guys.
Yeah, I agree.
What about Hurst? He's someone that piqued my interest. I thought he'd have a bigger game last night, and he really wasn't super involved. Like the script was right, and it still didn't materialize. I think he could be interesting as a kind of a different type of play.
Hayden Hurst?
Yeah. I mean, no chase. He should have more of a role.
I don't hate it. I don't hate that at all. I don't hate Hurst. I actually like Ingram. I don't think Robert Tonyan is crazy.
No.
Higbee, 3,700 is fine. Tyler Conklin against Buffalo. If that's a chase game for people, I'll stay far away from that. But he had a huge game. Cade Otton against the Rams. Do we have is Brait still out? He's questionable. So if Brait's out, I would go back to Cade Otton. And one other spot I wanted to hit on was that somebody mentioned in chat they'd rather go to Ertz over Everett. I'll tell you, I wouldn't. Ertz is basically at that price. He's the type of guy that'll get you 10 to 13. You know, kind of what you were saying when you're talking about the 20-point games. I'm not saying he can't do it. He hasn't done it all season this year, but he is the range of outcomes for Hurst or for Zach Ertz. He's finished with between 10 and 16 fantasy points in every game. So not bad, right? Not bad. But most of them have been on the lower side of that. And it's just, and now you have DeAndre Hopkins. Is it a surprise to you? Because it isn't to me that Zach Ertz targets looked like this in the weeks that Hopkins was out. 4, 11, 10, 6, 10, 10. And over the last 2 games, he has 4 and 5 targets. That doesn't shock me even a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough. You're paying. It's not that he can't do it. It's just, is he that much more likely than all the guys in the 3K range?
No.
To me, no.
Not with Hopkins back.
That's what I'm saying. And so there's a bunch of names we rattled out. And it is true. A good point by Chronic Smith. The Bengals had Wilcox in the field last night at tight end at points too. So that is something to dig into a little more. But I genuinely feel like if Evan Ingram was on the main slate last week, he would be, I don't know. He would be at the top of the list for a lot of people.
I could see it. I see what you're saying. Just
Come
such
on.
cheap
One
options.
time. You would think by random chance I would get him right once. Wouldn't you think, like, of all the weeks that I've recommended him, I don't think you'd think it randomly it would work.
Yeah, because all you need is 13.
6.
Yeah. Any other tight ends?
No, because normally we're talking about guys that are 4,500 and we're saying, okay, there's a guy at like 2,800 that's interesting. If you can find someone at 2,800, you can find $400 to get to the guys we just talked about that
Especially
are legitimate components of these offenses.
Yeah. Foster Moreau, if Waller's out, there's another one. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot in that range that stands out. All right, before we close this out, and shout out to Tyler for producing this one. Favorite defense under 3K. It's a pointless segment, but it's a fun way to close this show. Who would you go with?
I would go with the Panthers at 2,300. They can get pressure. Pressure is always the starting point for good defenses. Burrow's making mistakes. He's an amazing player. I love Joe Burrow. He's getting pressure. He's turning the ball over, and the Panthers defense can cause some problems, and they're $2,300.
That was my pick as well. Yep.
I'll give you one more real quick then. The Commanders against Cousins, I think, is also interesting. He has games like that. No one's going to do that.
Where Cousins just deteriorates in front of our eyes.
Like, I'm going to have Cousins stacks, obviously. Yeah. I like the spot for them. I'll have some Washington.
I could see that. Yeah. Panthers at Cincy, though, definitely at that price point makes a whole lot of sense. A whole lot of sense.
Pressure.
Hey, Ben's coming up at 1:00 Eastern for the PGA Strategy Show with Jeff Ulrich. You got the NHL Strategy Show at 2:00. You got the Deeper Dive at 5:30 for basketball. You got NBA Live Before Live at 6:30. We got you covered all day long, and all of our betting content over at the Odds Shopper channel. Ben, big numbers lately. We're growing big over there for good reason. It's good content.
It's a ton of fun. A lot of quick videos too. So, I love doing these live shows that are an hour and a half. We get into it. If you're looking for, hey, there's games on the night and I want some picks in 5 minutes, head to OddsShopper YouTube. Check out, all of us are over there. We're having fun. You hop in the Discord as well. It's just a great community that we're building, and it's because of you guys. I see a lot of familiar faces over there. But if you haven't been over to OddsShopper YouTube, just take a peek. We got some cool things going on over there.
Appreciate you guys as always. We'll see you back here for the next one. Peace.